Do you know what the most powerful of all human forces is? It's not love, it's more than that. It's belief. See, belief is the foundation upon which we build our lives. It shapes our actions, it molds our perceptions, and it defines our realities. When we believe in ourselves, we unlock potential we never knew existed. Belief has driven incredible human achievements, from landing on the moon to eradicating diseases and creating masterpieces of art and literature. But here's the kicker: the opposite's also true. Limiting beliefs can shackle us, keeping us stuck in patterns that no longer serve us. And they fuel some of the most tragic events in human history, from wars to systematic oppression to just personal despair. Now, the nice guy syndrome is a prime example of a limiting self belief. It's a mindset that convinces men that they must constantly seek approval, avoid conflict, and they've got to suppress their true desires in order to be liked and accepted. And this belief system keeps men playing small, hiding their authentic selves, and settling for less than what they should be getting in relationships and in their lives. In today's episode, I want to explore the idea of self-limiting beliefs that nice guys often carry, beliefs that keep you stuck in life. I'm going to talk about and uncover the origins of these beliefs and how they hold and take hold, but most importantly, how we can break free from them. We're going to dive into some of the steps that can transform our beliefs into more empowering energies that we can live with. Welcome to the Nice Guy Show. I'm Chuck Chapman. I'm your host today. And I'm joined by my co-host, Faisal Khokhar and Ari Graff. We are coaches dedicated to helping nice guys transform into integrated men. Together we have several decades of experience helping men level up themselves. And we ourselves have leveled up our lives. So our mission is to help you guys become confident, skilled leaders to get what you want out of life, love, success. So a belief can be described, and on the one hand, belief is a difficult thing to describe because it's a cognitive state or a mental acceptance or conviction of certain things that you hold true, and these are usually based on evidences that you've collected throughout your lives. And yet it's also an emotional kind of thing. It involves our emotional components. It's also energy. It's how we project into the world. Belief is really complex because it interplays between our thoughts, our emotions, and sometimes our intuition or spiritual insights. Beliefs shape how we perceive and interact with the world and guide our actions, helping us make decisions and create attitudes about certain topics and things that we have. Now, personally, my self-limiting beliefs have kept me stuck for far too long. Now, most of these revolve around things like abundance and relationships and money and my connection with the feminine. It's as if the gods were sort of like playing with me and saying, "This is what you get, Chuck." Now, one of the biggest self-limiting beliefs I've had is once a nice guy, always a nice guy. However, through a lot of hard work, mentorship, and cognitive reframing, this belief has changed. I've seen it also change not only my lives, but the men that I work with, shedding the mythology of the nice guy. And it's led to some pretty amazing experiences in my life. So I want to talk again about self-limiting beliefs, how they show up, how they limit us, and what we're doing to overcome them. So let's start with you. Let's start with you, Faisal. What are some of the limiting beliefs that you've had that maybe have kept you stuck, especially in your nice guy syndrome?
Thanks, Chuck. And it's been many. I have had a lot of limiting beliefs. And as you were writing this podcast, I was thinking, okay, what are my limiting beliefs? Where do I start? Where do I begin with this? And I wrote a few down. And the first one, that really came up to me was, I'm not good enough to get the type of women I want. You know, um, I put women on a pedestal, and she's out of my league. I think that's the common thing I heard myself saying, and I heard a lot of guys say she's out of my league.
Hmm.
Another limiting belief I really, and I'm still battling with this one. It's about I'm not a good enough father. My parenting is not up to scratch. It's not where I want it to be, and I can't father well. I'm not. I sometimes end up comparing myself too much and seeing other fathers. I'm like, wow, they're doing that really well. I don't always do that. And I see that father doing something. I'm cherry picking all the stuff that I'm looking around. My ego is comparing itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then I come back and I'm thinking, oh, I can't do that. I can't do this. They can do that. And the third one, and this one I was really proud to overcome as well, which was I can't write. So my background was tech, computer systems, and I was in awe. I remember working for a car magazine company, and I was so privileged to be, working with these guys, and they're all journalists, they're writers. We would go out, test drive cars, come back, and they write all these incredible articles in the magazine, and I would just watch them, thinking, how on earth are they just writing? How on earth are they producing this content? And over time, I started to think about, well, let's combat this. So I remember going to Tony Robbins, and I remember one of the quotes he said, which comes back to your point, was the only thing that's keeping you from getting what you want is the story you keep telling yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to the belief, is what's the story you're telling yourself? What's on repeat? And stories are really hardwired in us to believe anything. So any story that exists, any story that you hear or you tell and you keep repeating that becomes true. So all I did and I work on tirelessly is tell a new story.
Yeah, I like that. And that's basically what um, psychologists would call cognitive reframing. Taking the belief, looking at it, and reframing it into a new belief or a new story, like you said. So I like that idea of, beliefs are really stories that we tell ourselves, and we tend to tell ourselves over and over again. And like I said, it's based on evidence that we collect. Whether that's comparing ourselves to others or looking at ourselves and saying, oh, I'm not good at that. So why even try? Those are some limiting beliefs that have affected me throughout my life. And now, like even younger, like I had this belief that was I'm not good at sports, and I wasn't good at sports because part of it was a belief that I had, but also part of it was because I believed I wasn't good at sports, I really didn't try. I really didn't try to get better at these things. I just felt like if it doesn't come easy, then it's not something that I want to work on. Um, so yeah, those are good ones. Thanks, Faisal. What about you, Ari? Do you have any self-limiting beliefs that have affected you in your
Yeah, I
life?
mean, I have some of the same ones Faisal said. I think it's typical. I'm not good with women. I can't make a lot of money. Also, like I can't be a leader. I definitely have had to work through this belief that I'm a follower when I'm in groups. Um, and then another one that came up for me last year that I wasn't as aware of was I'm not creative. Maybe that goes along like with what Faisal was saying, that I'm not a writer. Um, but I realized this was a really pernicious self-limiting belief. Um, I was just comparing myself to other coaches or other people in general that I viewed as creative, not just artists, but just people with good ideas. Um, so that was something that I challenged myself last year, to actually do some creative activities. Like I wanted to put on my own retreat. And I was already going on a retreat with one of my men's groups. And so they asked me to lead it. So I got to practice leading, and I got to practice creating a retreat. So I also challenged myself, okay, my normal tendency is, oh, I better copy someone else, or I got to find it in a book. Um, so I decided, you know what? I'm going to just make up every single activity on this retreat. Obviously, it's going to be influenced by other people and things I've done before, but I'm gonna just I'm gonna make up different meditations or visualization activities, um, or types of questions. So that made it a fun process. And that also started to shift this idea in me that I wasn't creative. And I think this is an important self-limiting belief, this one around creativity, because once you start viewing yourself as a creator, um, that helps you to shift other self-limiting beliefs. That really our stories, our narratives, it's a creative act that we're engaging in all the time. So if you adopt that view that we're all creating all the time, and we can be an artist of our own lives, I think that's really empowering and makes it more fun. So that's something that I've discovered recently.
Yeah, I think that that's a really important aspect. I know what you mean. Here, the thing is that sometimes I'll get an idea about something, and I'll talk myself out of the idea, and then other times I'll get an idea and I'll start to talk myself out of it, and I'm just like, no, I'm going to push through this. I'm going to make this happen. And I think that that's where limiting beliefs can cause you to sort of stop if you reframe them and override them. And then I also think with experiences, so I did something similar where I'm going to start a men's group. And so it's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know how to do this, but I just started it and I just did it. And it turned out to be pretty good. And, wrote a book, same thing, just like I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to start, a coaching business. All of these kind of things were things that I had the resistance of the limiting belief, but pushing through them changed and created new evidences for me that said, oh, you know what? I actually can do some of these things. Is there anything specifically, that you can think of that, maybe was a big obstacle for you, or maybe even a client story or something like that, or somebody who had a limiting belief and it kept you or kept your client stuck?
You can go the opposite way as well. We talked about creativity as well. You can go the opposite way and become too creative and then have that shiny object syndrome.
Mm.
Which then it kind of like
So
answering your
what's an
question.
example of that? Yeah.
Oh, you have too many ideas. Like I'm always coming up with this idea, because for me, I've always been very creative, and I love inventing things, creating things, and I'm constantly creating things. The only disadvantage is that, and it's that you don't do mastery of one thing. So you just dabble here. So you're not, I'll dabble a bit with dating, I'll dabble a bit with this, I'll dabble with that, and then have all these ideas coming out, but you don't just do the boring stuff and stick to it.
So how would you frame that in a limiting belief that you have for yourself?
Yeah. So that was, I am a person of mastery. So I start something, I complete something. I have these creative ideas, and I'm going to prioritize which is the most purposeful one.
Mm-hmm.
So that just helps me to narrow down to the one thing. Because all my mentors have been saying, the one thing, Faisal, what's the one thing? The one thing. You got to focus on the one thing. Stop trying to focus on too many things. And he says, look, just focus on, everyone has those challenges. So just understanding the fact that you're not alone on this. And then you talked about, what are some of the examples of, where things have gone on. Well, I had for example, a client, and his limiting belief was, I'm not funny. I'm not creative. I'm not funny. I don't know what to say on dates. Yet him and I can have such a great conversation. We can have this conversation. As soon as he gets with a girl, his nerves start kicking in. And as soon as his nerves starts kicking in, then he just starts to get these mind blanks, awkward silences. And then he's like, oh, I can never have conversations. I can never do this. And then he'll have these very boring, logical, stale conversations. So what do you do? How's this? How's this? How's this? And he'll try to force a joke or something, but it'll just wouldn't land. And then he'll be ashamed of that and then pull back. And for that, he just cemented that story is, I'm really good with women. But he's okay with his mates. So he had the story is, I'm okay with my friends, but I'm not okay with if I go on a date. So then it was just rewiring. The fact is that how he was seeing the date. We had to do some work on that one. He had to rechannel, reprogram And then I said, imagine if you're just having this conversation. I said, because you're seeking her approval so much. I said, you
Mm.
want to go out and have fun for you. You enjoy the date. So I was like, you crack the jokes that are funny to you with obviously some sophistication and temperance. And then he started to do that. And he started to have the fun, the joy. I said, bring that out on you and let them experience what your friends experience. Let the dates experience that. And over time, he stumbled a bit, feared a few steps, but he started to he started to ease himself more into that one because he was telling himself
Mm.
a new story.
Mm.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think it's the that need for approval that makes it particularly difficult, maybe for nice guys to shift their self-limiting beliefs because they're evaluating their success based on external things, external approval, and not their own internal compass. So, I think letting go of your attachment to outcome is one of the crucial skills for shifting your self-limiting beliefs. It seems like that was part of what you trained your client in.
Yeah. And then one of the
And
things was also how he saw himself. Because
well,
how
that is the
limiting
limiting
belief.
belief, right?
Yeah.
How I see
Yeah,
myself.
so you start re-imaging his own psychology. Starts saying, how do you see yourself, or how do you want to see yourself? And then you start doing some tasks within the coaching um, environment. So then you start to rewire that part, and it takes some guys, some you can run with it quickly. Some take a little bit more time than others.
Mhm. How about you, Ari? Is there ways that you've seen yourself maybe attached to outcome or limiting beliefs that you've been able to challenge and push through? Like more like specific examples?
Um, yeah, I mean, I definitely think with dating, um, I've pushed through beliefs about whether I could lead a date, whether I could tolerate rejection, uh, deal with conflict, um, deal with disapproval on a date. So those are all things that I became aware of, like especially through reading Dating Essentials for Men. So kind of having um, having a game plan for how I'm going to deal with those self-limiting beliefs when they come up. So I mean that's an example uh, that I dealt with in the last few years.
I one of the things I've realized too is like sometimes I'll be influenced by other people's limiting beliefs, or I'll be influenced by something somebody else says, and then that'll become my reality. I remember hearing Dr. Glover. This was years ago, where he said something about I wrote the book, but I still struggle with some of these things from time to time. And to me, I took that to mean like, okay, if he's still a nice guy after all of these years and written the book, then that means overcoming the nice guy syndrome is impossible. And so I think for a very long time, I felt like my belief was, like I said earlier, once a nice guy, always a nice guy. And the best that I could do is maybe identify some of these behaviors that I had and then try to do the opposite of those behaviors. And then maybe I would get, what I wanted in life, love and sex, as the subtitle of the book says. And I think that belief kept me stuck for a really long time, thinking that, somebody like my wife would say, and she would say this sort of like jokingly, she's like, "Oh, you're such a nice guy," meaning that I'm nice, not in the nice guy syndrome way. And I'm like, "I'm not nice. I'm an integrated man," and almost like I had to defend the position of I'm not a nice guy. And I think that uh, shifting away from this idea of like, oh, I'm a nice guy who's identified he's a nice guy, and so now I have tools to help me overcome my nice guy syndrome. Like that is actually a limiting belief as opposed to the belief of I'm an integrated man, and I use that framework as a way to show up in life. And so that's one way. Like personally, I think that I've seen a limiting belief, a self-limiting belief that I've had, and how it's really held me back, and changed that. Another limiting belief that I've had, is around the idea of abundance, and the idea of, money, abundance, resources, all of those kind of things, that there's this limitation, or that, somehow God doesn't want me to be, rich and famous. He wants me to be very humble and poor, and that's his ideal of what a good human being is. And I just recognize that those things are limiting beliefs that I've taken on as a result of others' influences, whether it's through, religious dogmas, or whether it's through other people's opinions, that I will take on somebody else's opinion or somebody else's belief as a limiting belief of my own.
That's so
And
true
I mean,
about the money thing as well, because I remember the limiting belief I had was, if you're rich, if you're making money, you're taking away from other people. It's bad on you, wrong on you to make money and enjoy yourself. It's wrong. It's selfish. That's some of the
Right.
limiting beliefs of, you can't put yourself first. You can't do all of these things. You can't look after yourself. You have to make sure that you're looking at everybody else. You have to make sure everybody else is okay, and you don't need a lot of money. You just need to make sure that you got enough. Just leave it for everybody else. So these were a lot
So
of
how did you
financial.
change that?
Well, I the self-love. I mean, that was a part where first I had complete resistance towards that. I was like, what's this self-love bullshit? This is all. I had um, a lot of. Here's what the path I did. I had to unlearn a lot of things before learning a lot of things. So a lot of the time was unlearning bad habits, unlearning bad thoughts, consistently bad thoughts that was coming up. So a lot of the time was unlearn, get to a place of neutrality, and then start to take on beliefs that came from my inner self rather than what everybody else indoctrinated on top of me.
That's good.
yeah, I was just going to add. I think beliefs can be contagious. So, you can learn negative or self-limiting beliefs from the people around you, and then, if you surround yourself with the right kind of people, you can develop a whole different belief structure. We're part of a community called Integration Nation that's all about becoming an integrated man. And we're continually kind of refining what that means and all the different aspects of it. And we're articulating, what does it mean? How do you practice being an integrated man? So we're talking about this all the time. Um, and this is part of how you integrate that into your belief structure, about being honest, being giving, being a good receiver, all of these things that like Dr. Glover has talked about as being part of an integrated man. Another example I was thinking of, I'm not sure if I got this from you, Faisal, I might have, was just this belief, I'm the prize, as opposed to she's the prize. Did I get that from you? Maybe.
I think it's all over the internet. It's all over the internet.
It's all over the internet. Okay.
It's all over. Yeah, you're the prize. I mean, I do like that, and I don't like that as well, because just telling yourself I'm the prize, but you have no competency to back that up, then you'll have that subcommunal communication of actually, yeah, I'm telling myself I'm the prize, but underneath, I still leave my socks on the floor. And she
Well,
nags
because the
me.
difference,
What?
the difference between
well,
a belief and like a, you can tell yourself something, but if you don't actually believe it, almost like the fake it till you make it kind of thing. And I think that's important to, like, you really need to transform the belief, not just tell myself that I'm the prize, but really believe, like, hey, I'm a catch, you know. And
Yeah.
when you believe that, then you show up that way. If you're just telling yourself I'm the prize, trying to convince yourself, then you're just speaking to that feminine part of yourself, trying to convince yourself of something. rather than just like, yeah, this is true. So
And
anyway,
so
guys,
that's how I took it.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it. Fake it till you make it. Does that work with when she's faking it?
right.
That's another episode.
That's another episode. All right, guys, thanks for taking time to join us today. What do you guys think? You know, what are some of your self-limiting beliefs, or is there anything that's been keeping you, holding you back? Do us a favor and write in the comments. Let us know what your thoughts are. And if you're watching this on one of your other, the podcast platforms, be sure to like us there and give us a review. And if you are watching on YouTube, then also please subscribe and like this video. It helps us reach other men and support. And if you like this podcast, make sure to check out episode number 31, Getting Your Balls Back. No more Mr. Nice Guy, Cultivating Courage. Thanks again for checking out The Nice Guy Show. Be sure to go to niceguyshow.com to get on our mailing list, and we will see you next time.
You've been listening to The Nice Guy Show with certified Nice Guy recovery coaches Ari Graff, Chuck Chapman, and Faisal Khokhar. Be sure to subscribe to this channel so you can listen to our latest episodes and visit us on www.theniceguyShow.com. If you have any topics you'd like to hear us discuss, send us an email at support@theniceguyShow.com. Thanks for listening.